Welcome to Freedom Mentor Live. I'm Phil Pustejovsky, and I am joined by two other brilliant real estate investors. The first, he hails from the Lone Star State. He's been working with me for over 15 years. You've seen him on our videos. The one and only Brian Busch. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Phil. Great to be here.
And we also have another genius in real estate, not only investing, but also as an agent. He comes to us from the Ocean State, from Rhode Island, Devin Sheehan. Welcome, Devin.
How are you, Phil? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, y'all, we're live here. It's our first time doing this. There could be some technical difficulties, so please bear with us. So if you registered, then you would have put in not only your email, but you may have asked some questions. We're going to cover some of those. So you'll be surprised by how many people had similar questions during the registration process. But to make sure that these systems are working, please chat in where you're coming from, either the state that you're coming from in the United States, or if you're coming from a different country. Let's see what we have here. So go ahead and put that in. I'm, by the way, coming to you from Florida. All right, y'all. Well, while they're typing that in, let's cover some of the questions, gentlemen, that I feel were very common. So the first was, what is the market status from an investor point of view? What's the best recession-proof real estate investing strategy for this season? What's better in this market? Is wholesales doing well? You know, what's our take? What's the market status? So we'll start with you, Brian. What are your thoughts on that basket of questions?
Well, it's a broad question because obviously everyone's often in a different location. So I think that's something we have to account for is what does your local market look like? Because we see some parts of the country where inventories are still low, and we see other portions, more south where they're starting to build up and it's causing a softer market. So I think the first thing you have to account for is what is my local market doing? What do I want to focus on? And so kind of thinking short term, if we are, of course, we're wholesaling, we're doing plenty of deals like that. We're doing some rehabbing. If you've watched any of our videos, you know that I'm a reluctant rehabber. I don't want to rehab if I don't have to. But it depends on the deal. So I think, depending on where you're marketing, what you're focused on, the leads you're generating, what your bread and butter is that you're focused on, I think flipping properties it really works in all markets, depending on, of course, what you have coming to you. What I wouldn't get stuck in is long, drawn-out rehabs because the market is moving, interest rates can change. You don't want to get stuck. I mean, no matter how good the market is, you don't want to get stuck. But in particular, when you don't want to get stuck in market cycles, I would keep those renovations short and sweet.
Yeah, amen. So, but for those that are thinking of getting into this market, Brian, and they think back to what happened in 21 and 22 and even 2023, how are we different now than a couple of years back?
Well, first and foremost, interest rates are higher. It has less movement in the market that's really happening because more people are still recovering from the turn. You said 23, and it was 23 where things started turning. Everybody started feeling some of the inflation and so forth. So I think you got a lot of folks that are just trying to recover from that. And so there's a lot less movement going on. That said, as we always point out, problems don't wait around for the market. When people have divorces where they're losing jobs, they need to relocate, there's always going to be folks that need to do something. And that's what we specialize in. We specialize in helping people that are motivated, that need to make something happen no matter what the market's doing. And of course, it's just being selective in what you focus on. So there's absolutely deals out there. Of course, you have to be marketing to find them.
So, Devin, from your perspective, looking at it not from the short-term side of flipping deals, but long-term, where is the market right now for those that want to own rental property?
I mean, I've always been a big believer in owning properties that people need to live in, right? So multifamily, that's a very strong asset class, especially with the interest rates where they are. People continue to rent And the younger generation, they don't necessarily, they want to be, especially with the work from home environment, people want to be able to move. People want to have flexibility. So owning rental property right now is a huge opportunity. And that market doesn't really go down because there's a shortage of houses, and two, there's people that don't want to own stuff anymore. They want to rent.
I thought it was fascinating the other day when I saw where interest rates for a multifamily, obviously they had to be a qualified investor, was lower than for an owner-occupied single-family residence. You could get a lower interest rate, y'all, on a loan for a 10 unit than you can for the home you live in. So really fascinating that the banks prioritize or feel safer in multifamily than they do in a property you live in. Mm-hmm. So multifamily, we're a place where people can live. I want to add to it. I was so bullish, so excited about vacation rental investing. We did it for many years. I made a lot of money. That's a tough thing to make money in right now. Mm-hmm. Between all of the hotel lobbying to produce legislation to stop it, as well as the fact that there's been oversaturations in the market that allow it. And so, that's where it's at. For long-term investors, it's all about owning property where you are providing housing, and most importantly, providing affordable housing, right? Not that many of the people on this live streamer are going to be building Class A 500-unit apartment buildings, but that's not where the income is. The income is in that Class B and Class C.
Yeah.
All right. So, Devin, you'll like this. This gentleman asked the question, would it make sense to try to straight up jump into multifamily instead of flipping, wholesaling single family houses first? He says, I'm 20, I'm graduating from college soon, spent a lot of time learning and looking at commercial real estate. What are your thoughts?
I think that commercial real estate is something you get into a little more once you're established and have established income. I think for that gentleman who asked that question, I think you get into making income from real estate, moving in and out of deals, making 20, 30, 50, 100 grand from a deal, building up some breathing room for yourself, and then going and start putting that money to work, start taking some of the tax advantages you do from commercial real estate and creating passive income. But if you're at no income right now, you have to start creating income somehow.
Yeah. The reality is long-term real estate investing is a game of return on investment. Mm-hmm. There had to be a start. You had to have some investment. This is very different from flipping and wholesaling. And there's some questions related to that, and I kind of get into it with no money down and those kind of things. But when you're owning long-term rental property, there's a certain investment required, either in the down payment or in the renovations. If you syndicate every bit of the purchase and you get loans, oftentimes there's no cash flow left. So it is a return on investment. So for this 20-year-old gentleman just getting out of college, love that you're into real estate. Well done. Really excited for you. But I think it's important that you start generating income, and you can make a lot of money from flipping houses. And then you take that money and you can then go buy long-term rental property.
Absolutely.
All right. So by the way, y'all, there's questions coming in. I'll show some of these. I did not ask someone to go type this. How can I get Phil to be my personal mentor? Shameless plug here. But we will be mentioning our mentoring program, Freedom Mentor. We mentor real estate investors to freedom. The way you do that, we have a team member, Stephanie, who can reply to you and send you a link to apply to our apprentice program. And that's where you get to be mentored by me and Devin and Brian. Yes, we all mentor. One of the reasons why we did this tonight is simply because Brian, Devin, and I, we get asked real estate questions all day, every day. I mean, all the time from all kinds of different people. I get whether I'm at a convenience store, or I go to the doctor's office. I'm just inundated with questions about real estate, and I love answering them. I thought, wow, we could, with the technology these days, we can reach everyone at the same time and answer these questions so that you can get a better understanding of this whole thing of real estate, how that fits into your life. Is it realistic for you? And hopefully we'll be able to do that here tonight. So you all please type in your questions in the chat as we're going along here. And as you can see, we can answer them pretty quickly. So I'd love to hear from every one of you with the questions you have. There's no such thing as a bad question, because what you ask, you may think is either not good or elementary or doesn't fit, and you'd be surprised by what our answers can be. So, Brian, this next question, we were talking about, is now a good time to flip houses? But let's talk about what I think some people are always concerned about, and that is real estate trainers and coaches. Like, where's the problem? We always talk about the positives. Now is a great time. It's a great time to be a real estate investor. But where can people legitimately go wrong?
Yeah, I think what supports it's always a good time to buy is because there's always deals out there. So we're always going to leave room for the fact there's sellers that are motivated. There's people that have to move. It doesn't matter how slow a market may be. There's people buying. People always need a roof over their head. It's a matter of what are they buying. As Devin talked about, if you're going to hold the things that people need to live in. But when you're looking to flip things, it's all about buying right. So there's some assumptions when we say it's a good time to be doing real estate. It's assuming you know how to evaluate a deal to determine whether that's something you should be investing in. Should you be flipping it as is? Should you be doing some work to it? Should you be doing a major renovation? Those are all things you want to compare to look at what's the best return. And I would say probably the most important thing you can learn as a new investor is what not to put your time and money into, being able to walk away. And so that's one of the benefits of being, I would say when we mentor our apprentices, we're one step removed. We're not emotionally attached to that deal. And so we're going to objectively tell you whether it looks like a good deal. And it's interesting because when people get more and motivated to do a deal, sometimes people want to turn the loser into a winner because they're so eager to do a deal. So I think it's really, really key to make sure you're getting good advice, looking at the numbers, remaining as objective as you can be so that you're not just making emotional decisions, but you really are ensuring that the numbers make sense. Kind of a measure twice, cut once is a phrase we've been using lately. And as I alluded to earlier, the other side of it is let's differentiate between short and long-term deals. Yeah. If you want to, invest and generate the cash that we mentioned, that Devin mentioned, that you need to hold longer term deals, then you need to be in and out of the deal quickly and understand how you're going to generate cash. I've got a video coming out pretty quickly that's going to talk about, I want you putting deals under contract that can make money if you do nothing to it, right? If it's something that you have to renovate to make money, it's probably not a good deal. So I would say, in answer to your question broadly here, evaluating deals is really the key to making sure you don't get hurt.
Yeah, that is such a great point. This idea that they're eager to do a deal. They want to tell their friends and family they did their first real estate deal, and they walk into an absolute trap. Well, there's some great questions coming in. Thank you all. Patrick, you're asking this question here. What are your thoughts on sub 2? We'll turn that to Devin. Devin, what are your thoughts on sub 2 right now?
I think there's a lot of sub 2 opportunities in the sense that people bought high. They have a life situation, which we often talk about, and you can get into that deal and then offer, seller financing on the other end or a rent to own. The one thing that people won't tell you about sub 2 deals is that it has to be a perfect storm. Right? It usually does. And a lot of people preach sub 2, and sub 2 is great, but it has to be a perfect storm where one, the seller allows you to do it, and two, the seller's stuck where they can't get out from underneath it. And that's what a lot of people don't share.
Yeah. By the way, for those that don't know what sub 2 means, it's short for the phrase subject to. It's where you buy a property and the loan that was on the property from the borrower doesn't get paid off. It stays recorded against the property, and you just make payments to that lender. Subject to the existing financing. And we're doing a deal right now with one of our apprentices. He's just north of Houston in Conroe. And that's a perfect market for subject to, because there's a lot of homes that have been built and are still being built. And this person had bought the property a year ago, and they put $8,000 down. They owe $167, if my memory serves me correctly. And the property's not going to sell for more than about $165. So he's upside down, but he's not upside down deep enough to do a short sale. That's a perfect subject to. That's where Devin is talking about, when it's a perfect storm and everything meshes together. So subject to, I love them. We've been doing subject to deals long before they ever used a phrase sub to. We have championed certain techniques that still to this day we have proprietary ownership of. We love subject to, but as Devin said, it has got to be the perfect storm. By the way, this one here, are banks, just because we're on that topic, are banks okay with sub two since the former owner handed over the payments to someone else? Again, it's not whether they're okay or not. It's you just do it. And what you do is you try to navigate around that. And again, we don't have time to go into the details of how we personally navigate it. But yes, they're done every single day, y'all. Subject to deals are extremely common. So thanks, Patrick, for that follow-up question. All right, Devin, this one goes back to you because we're talking about rental property. And I love how this question gets to the heart. So Eric Moe, thank you. Interest rates, property taxes, insurance, maintenance costs keep rising and won't drop. For the most part, maybe we'll get a miracle with interest rates. But rent won't keep up. More properties, more losses. Am I alone in thinking this? Do you agree? Let's go with you, Devin.
Yeah, so my answer to that would be is real estate is a great hedge against inflation in the sense that the cost to build and the cost of things, jobs, dollar per hour keeps going up. What I will say is that, yes, the rents, I believe, are going to still climb, right? I look at some of the other things like insurance rates, property taxes, like you get to a threshold that if like the rents don't keep up, those things kind of have to move backwards at some point because then nothing would be affordable by anything, right? So for me, I'm very bullish on rents. And then also one thing that you're not thinking about is buying the right properties too as well. Right. And that's where a lot of people fail is they don't know how to evaluate the property correctly. They buy it and from day one on, there's no cash flow. And because they can't even correctly evaluate the property to take in the interest rate consideration, the property taxes, the insurance, that's where I see a lot of the mistakes made. But I do disagree that like you're going to want to buy rental property because the rental rates are going to continue to increase. And if they can't, everything shifts backwards again.
Right. That's a great point. I also think what's so exciting about the right rental properties is you have the tax advantages as well, which can't be negated. I mean, hopefully for many of you watching, you're in a higher tax bracket. It saves you a fortune when you have depreciation. So a great question there. Brian, really like this question here. This is coming from not a personal name, but Precision Logistics. Hopefully they got a great business. Hopefully we're giving them a nice little plug there. I have $10,000 to start off with. If you were in my shoes, Brian, where would you start?
Well, it really goes back to what Devin just touched on, being able to analyze properties. If you want to grow that, you want to flip properties, right? You want to flip deals, but you have to be able to find them. You have to be able to properly evaluate them. And as I said at the start, we need to be in and out of these deals quickly because the goal is to grow those funds to a bigger and bigger sum there. I actually have a video that you might check out on our YouTube channel, how to turn 10,000 into 100,000. And that's what we help a lot of our students do is, flip the right deals and learn, do I rehab? Do I just wholesale? Some of these deals, as we just talked, Devin just talked about, are subject to, but knowing which ones to do, really, really critical. We've had a number of subject to deals as of late where the interest rates are higher and, depending on the market and what are the taxes, what is the insurance, there are times where that's just outpacing the rent and you can't find many people that are fit. And so there are some sellers that end up going from maybe subject to will solve my problem to maybe I need to do a short sale or just come up with cash to get the property moved. So not to go too far off the mark there, but back to the 10,000, I think you put it into first and foremost, you need to learn where to market, and you need to have good advice coming your way in the form of mentorship, someone that is helping you to learn your local market, how to evaluate it, how to make those dollars grow and get a return on your funds so that you can continue to build your larger goals with real estate.
That's a great point. I love your answer. Stephanie has just posted a link to your video, how to turn 10 into 100,000. That really will get into the nuts and bolts, y'all, of exactly what that looks like, how you take 10 and turn into 100,000 with short-term creative real estate and flipping houses. I also want to plus what you said there, Brian, and that is, I read that maybe it was Abraham Lincoln, that if he had 8 hours to cut a tree down, he'd spend the first 7 sharpening the blade of his axe. And if you don't already know how to turn 10,000 into 100,000, you don't know the exact blueprint of exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, then the first place you need to start is with a mentoring team that can teach you that. And if you don't have that, nothing else matters, because that is the kind of specified wisdom that up to this point, you're not going to find it just for free with the YouTube University and whatnot. You can scratch the surface, you can get around the edges, but to really get to the heart of exactly what to do in the throes of the deals you're working on, and you're talking to a seller. And we had a question just a bit ago before the live broadcast here, Brian, where it was Brian and up in Wisconsin. And one of the buyers, prospective buyers for his property, was asking for easement documentation. And okay, there's nowhere to ask on this particular property, where do I get easement documentation for this buyer? Well, it turns out there doesn't need to be easement documentation. The buyer didn't actually know what they were talking about, but it's okay. I mean, like who's going to know that? Well, that's where real people, that's where mentors come into play. So if you are going to turn 10,000 to 100,000 through creative real estate investing and flipping houses, which, by the way, is very possible. It's one of the few businesses perhaps on earth that can realistically, consistently pull that off. And that's why, of course, we still, 20 years later, are still preaching this gospel. It's because flipping houses, the creative way that we do it, is just the best small business in America. Man, there's some great questions out here. So y'all, thank you so much for being here. Again, type in your questions there. And as we pull them up, we will try to get to them. All right. So I'm scanning through some of the questions also that came through. Devin, this person says, how to accomplish increased rents beyond the city's 4% rent control limit. We won't make this a political discussion. Let's just talk about the 4% rent control limit.
Yep. I would say go to a state that doesn't have rent control.
There you go.
Is the answer. Besides that, you have to stay within the ability, of what the state allows you to do. But also, if the rents are below market value, and oftentimes they are in mismanaged properties, doing the right things to get the rents to the correct value that you can is where the opportunity lies when you have rent control. Even simple paint, vinyl plank flooring, a new countertop, cleaning up the basement, giving storage in the basement, maybe adding some more parking. These are the type of things that a lot of owners don't think about that are value to renters. People want a clean, nice place to live.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely, it comes down to great management. You bring great management to a mismanaged asset, and it's a magical formula. It's a beautiful formula, and there is plenty of mismanagement in all kinds of great assets across this country. And so when you have the knowledge and you know how to bring the right management, it really is. You look at the math, and if I had my easel board behind me, I'd show y'all. You increase NOI relative to the cap rate, and it's exponential what can happen. Yeah. All right. So you just get out of rent control. It's so simple. According to a John Stossel YouTube video on rent control, St. Paul, Minnesota versus Minneapolis. Apparently, one of the communities had rent control, the other didn't. So not too surprising, all of the real estate investors that were in the one that had rent control quickly moved to the one that didn't have rent control. And that's kind of the best way to do it. You just leave the rent control alone, let somebody else figure that out. All right, so this one right here, I enjoy the topic, and it's the topic of tax lien properties. It says, do you have mentors that focus on buying tax lien properties? I'll field that one. I put a video together, the pros and cons of tax lien investing. It's been over 10 years, still performs well on YouTube because what I shared is timeless. We're not fans of tax lien investing when you know how to be a creative real estate investor and you know how to flip houses. Because the 10x return that Brian was mentioning, 10,000 to 100,000, is far more applicable when you are working directly with motivated sellers, you're structuring creative deals, and then you are turning around and selling those properties. You see, one of the keys you'll see from that video on the pros and cons of tax lien investing is that if you're spending all of this time evaluating tax lien properties, all that time could have been such better spent on a more productive activity within real estate. And so if you're just buying properties for the guaranteed interest rate, unfortunately, you're going to be competing against credit unions and sometimes hedge funds, and they will buy down those rates. And so by the time you try to compete with them, your interest rate's about the same as a savings account. So you will find that there are better uses of your real estate investing time than, for the most part, tax liens. Now, there are instances where you're working with a motivated seller or you know of a property and it's past due on its taxes. And if you really understand the laws of that community, sometimes you can buy the tax liens of that specific property because you knew about the property already. And sometimes that can put you in a better position to control the deal later on, so long as it doesn't get redeemed. But that's going down a deeper road. So short answer, there's better uses of your time than investing in tax lien properties. If it was so good, we would do more of it. It just isn't that good, so we don't do as much. So yeah, I see a lot of questions related to limited funds. Now this one's interesting. Devin, you are a licensed real estate agent, been very successful as an agent. Do you have to have a real estate license to be a successful creative real estate investor?
You absolutely do not. You do not need your real estate license to be a successful investor. Oftentimes, even though we say this, there are really, really good agents out there, but there's a lot of agents. It's very easy to get your license. That's the truth. And there is very little skill set of what we do in the agent industry. So that's why oftentimes when you're talking about creative finance and fixing and flipping, that skill set is just transactional. It's not what we do. I happen to have both, so understand both very well. But the short answer is no, you do not need your license at all.
There it is. Yeah, don't make that a barrier in your minds, y'all. You don't need a real estate license. In fact, I think a lot of real estate investors prefer not having a license. Brian Busch, you've been an incredibly prolific real estate investor for over 20 years. You don't have a real estate license. I got it a long, long time ago, and I just kept it. But yeah, there's no need for a license. All right, Brian, this one right here is pretty interesting because we obviously have our own take on this matter, and I think we're different from a lot of the folks on YouTube. Brian, where are the best locations to do remote wholesaling?
Well, I'd first ask, why are you doing remote wholesaling? I think it's always best you learn in your own backyard. Unless you've been doing wholesaling for a very long time and you're growing into other markets. In other words, you've learned in your own backyard all the do's and don'ts and ins and outs. Learn in your backyard where you can meet people, where you can build a local team, where you get your arms around the problems. I actually made that mistake closer to 20 years ago, trying to wholesale in multiple markets. And what I found is I'm just so spread out. I can't master these markets. I'm not building effective teams. I'm just kind of spinning my wheels in multiple markets. So I would highly advise that you always start out in your own backyard. Now, maybe you're in a rural area. I find that most of the time when people want to look outside of their area, it's because they feel like there's too much competition. And I would argue, no, that's a wonderful thing to have a lot of activity in your market. It's learning where in that market is the sweet spot, where to focus your efforts so that you can be most effective. So I would say first and foremost, start in your backyard. Let us show you where to focus. And then if you want to duplicate those efforts elsewhere, you can. I was actually talking to an apprentice this morning about wholesaling something and knowing your product. And I think that's one thing that many wholesalers are very lackadaisical and just at fault, and they don't know their product. They think this is just flipping paper. And, a perfect example, this apprentice has a deal she was able to sell for $5,000 more because she understood. She at first thought there was a plumbing problem, actually got her plumber out to take a look at it, realized there wasn't a problem. The offer she had from another investor that wanted to buy it and rehab it went up $5,000 because she knew her product. She knew the right questions to ask. She knew who to contact to get that resolved. And as a result, she made an extra $5,000 on the deal that a wholesaler that doesn't know the property would have totally missed out on. In fact, he probably would have lost a lot more because, the buyer comes along and says, oh yeah, it's got this problem, that problem, and who knows what else. When you don't know the product, you're at a big disadvantage. And I think that's one of the things remote wholesaling kind of lends towards, unless you're building a local team. So we'll just kind of leave it there for now.
Yeah, remote wholesaling for almost everyone is incredibly difficult. And I think more now than ever, because there's a trust recession. Sellers do not trust you. There's a lack of trust throughout every business right now. And sometimes the only way to get a deal done is to go meet that seller in person, is to go to that property, go look over the property, get to know that seller. Let's sit down at their kitchen table, chat with them. What makes real estate investing so productive is the personal aspect of it. If you're just hiding behind a computer screen and you're not getting out and looking at properties, meeting with sellers, you're never going to make as much money. You're just not. And so remote wholesaling takes away one of the greatest strengths you have, and that is being in person with the seller. Now, that's not the only reasons, though, Devin, because obviously there's the aspect of just building a local team and almost like a snowball effect. So talk a little bit about what happens when you start to really build the different relationships within the community.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch upon what you said there are so many deals I've been able to get done because the sellers, I meet with them, I set the right expectations, and they know I'm going to get the deal done, and they trust that I'm going to get the deal done. With remote wholesaling, it sounds sexy, and a lot of people talk about it, but the truth is it's very, very hard, okay? Mm-hmm. You lose that human element. Now, with building momentum in your local market, one thing, if there's anything that anybody can get off this call today, is that understanding that there are always deals in your local backyard. The reason being is that every seller in every local county, state, and town goes through life situations, whether it's divorce, whether somebody unfortunately passes away, whether a job loss happens. This is why deals always exist. Okay. I am in the smallest state in the country, and I'm doing a lot of deals, and building your team. And there's a lot of competition here, but building your team in locally, or at least within driving distance, makes you extremely efficient. Your painter, your electrician, your plumber, your roofer, your team as you're building it, it's easy to be able to get to a deal, look at it, and for them to get to it and execute the items you need to be done. As Brian was referring to earlier, we don't really I'm a lot more experienced, so doing a larger rehab is okay, but we look for cosmetic rehabs, painting the cabinets, painting the interior, vinyl plank flooring. We're looking for those. We don't really want the roof caving in and drawing, you're just not that experienced yet. As you gain experience, it's okay because you can afford to hold your money longer out there, but you want to get in and out as quick as you can. So building that local team is so important. And I'm in the smallest state in the country.
What a great point. And I think what's also so exciting for everybody here is the idea that there are deals literally in your backyard. Some of you try to get exercise by jogging or walking or riding your bike. If it's not an electric bike, right, you're actually getting some exercise. And I kid you not, my wife came back from her long morning walk today. She went on a different route, and she's like, here's a vacant house. There it is, right? So I'm digging around. I mean, it's the opportunities are all around you. And I think that it's such a huge mistake to assume that the grass is greener somewhere else. So we had a question, Brian. Someone asked, what does Brian think about the Texas market? Right, and it's what's going on in my market in Arkansas and in Florida and in Maryland. There's opportunity right now, right where you are. You may not know it's there, but it's there, and it's because of what Devin just said. It's because we're dealing with human beings here, and they have all kinds of life situations. And I understand they're not easy to find, but they're there. And if you just pick up one deal a year from your circle of where you drive back and forth every day, what if that makes you an extra $30,000 a year, right? Right, yeah. In your own backyard. So don't be searching remotely for some grand location, because guess what? Wherever you're going to, there's plenty of competition there as well. And there's competition in your backyard. They're everywhere. You need to learn how to overcome that competition to get to these deals first. And the best way to do that is right in your own backyard. And that's no matter where you're at. You drop me out of an airplane, but hopefully I got a parachute, right? And you drop me off anywhere, and I'm going to turn that little market into my my money-making machine. Not because of the market, but because of what we know about what we do.
And Phil, one thing I wanted to say there with competition, what people also have to understand is as humans, we have so much capacity, right? Yeah. So if I'm doing 3 or 4 deals in a month, I may not be able to do another deal. I might have to assign it, or I might miss that opportunity, right? So like there are limitations to people.
Yeah. There's room for you if you're watching right now. There's room for you to do this business if you do it right.
Yeah.
There's enough room. And I'll tell you another thing too. I'm going to add to that, Devin. Some of the people that were doing a bunch of deals 2 or 3 years ago, they might get mesmerized by setting up a assisted living facility or building developing a new mixed use building, and they get tied up on that for a couple of years. And meanwhile, those deals are all for you. So yeah, there's so much influx all the time. There's always room for another person to do a great job in this business.
Yeah.
All right. So Brian, this person is a little concerned, and I won't put them on the screen here, but they say they have a 500 credit score. Can they do this business with bad credit? Let's be realistic. Can someone be a successful real estate investor with bad credit, Brian?
Absolutely. Again, it goes back to how are you investing? If you're doing traditional real estate investing where you're working your day job, you have an agent out there looking for deals, you're competing on MLS, and the only way you're going to get money is either through hard money, and if you're competing on MLS, you're probably outside of that range. If you are finding deals that you can do and you have to use your own money to buy it and hold it for a very long time to make money, then that's the wrong recipe, right? And if you have a 500 credit score, it's not going to work either. What we focus on is working directly with sellers, as you guys have been talking about, building rapport and relationships with the people that are in need, that need our help, whether we're going to flip a deal, whether we're going to take it over on creative terms, short term, maybe a little longer term. We've got a tremendous amount of techniques that allow you to absolutely get deals done no matter what your credit score is. I can't tell you the last time I had my credit score pulled to do a deal. Because work directly with sellers. I do more owner finance than anything, along with subject to. So again, don't be so dependent on bank loans. I mean, there's a time for them, but even hard money lenders aren't dependent on your credit score if you find the right relationship and private money to boot. So absolutely not an issue.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that those that are trying to get their head wrapped around this understand there's a paradigm shift. The paradigm shift is when you are negotiating directly with the owner and you understand how to structure creative financing. There is no loan application. There is no qualification. It's the relationship and the way you negotiate with that seller, the trust you build with them. And now there is no need for the credit. And it is fascinating that, as Brian mentioned that, yeah, my credit, during COVID, I guess someone was able to take out a PPP loan on me. So ever since then, I've locked my credit, and it just stays locked all the time. I have no reason to unlock it. So yeah, you all, this is not a credit-based business if you're a creative real estate investor. All right. So Devin, this person, Zeus, was asking a question that, of course, I'd love to spend the rest of the time talking about myself and my origin story. I won't, but I love his other question, and that's related to how do we keep learning? Like, where is our ongoing cutting edge wisdom? Where is that coming from? Since we are the mentors, like, who's mentoring us?
Yeah. So, I mean, it started with you being mentored from your mentor, and then you mentoring me and Brian. And then one thing that people have to understand is we are in the trenches every single day. Yes, there was a time we were not making money from real estate. I was a real estate agent for 3 years before I found Freedom Mentor, right? And my psychological shift of like how to find these deals and why deals were in my local market, that's a lot of the aha moment for a lot of people. But it's because we're in the trenches, we are in deals every single day. And when you're doing something every single day, you're learning a new law change quicker. You're learning a new technique, because the only way to learn something is by doing it. Yes, you could watch videos. Yes, you could read books, and that gives you really good foundational knowledge, but it's not until you're in the deals where you're able to actually learn. So by all of us bouncing the deals off of each other, there's questions that I have for Phil. Like, I called Phil the other day on a deal that I fixed and flipped, and I had multiple offers, and still I just wanted a second opinion. I knew what to do. I just wanted a second opinion, because there's wisdom, as the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. And that's how we get better. We're constantly learning. And if we don't know the answer, which is okay, by the way, for anybody on this live stream, if you don't know the answer, we know who to go to get the answer, whether it's an attorney question, whether it's a tax account. You got to ask good questions too as well.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Brian? Anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, great points. Not much to add. I would say one of the great things that come with being in the trenches, Phil and I, we're on a call once a week talking deal closings. We're talking who's closing what have they run into, what nuggets have we been able to pull out of some of these deals. So we're constantly learning. And because we have apprentices all over the country, we're seeing what's happening in one part of the country, how it's perhaps different in another part of the country. So we're just constantly taking in new information. And I think one of the things that comes with the amount of deals we're doing and working with the apprentices we do is the confidence. And this kind of touches on a couple of the other things that we've been talking about, even if it's your credit score or whatever it may be. The confidence you have as you learn this business, and it's not just theoretical. Have I read a book, watched a few videos, but it's really real world, as Devin's talking about. Let's get hands on. And, for instance, we do group coaching calls, and we have, you can listen in to other apprentices from across the country. They're doing deals, and you may not have a deal yet, but when you hear others doing the deals and that this is real, I can do that. If that guy can do it, I can do that. And it builds that confidence. And it kind of touches on what we said, the last time we needed to pull our credit. One of the things I used to run into more was apprentices that said, well, what about earnest money? I mean, if I'm going to get a deal under contract, they probably $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 in earnest money. And it's amazing. A lot of those problems just melt away when you learn the right techniques, because you're out there doing deals and working, obviously, as we've been talking about here with motivated sellers, just a lot of those problems just get taken care of. So back to what Devin said, we're just iron sharpening iron over here. We continue to stick to the fundamentals that just serve us well, and our apprentices as well.
I love this topic. And Zeus, thank you so much for asking. You got a separate part to your question too we'll cover. So when you're first getting started in an endeavor, you have to get a mentor. Once you reach the level of that mentor, the way you learn from there on out is from your customers, from the business. It's each and every day. It's when the seller, one of the greatest techniques we ever invented. I didn't actually invent it. It came from the seller. The seller said, Phil, why don't you do XYZ? And I was like, that's a good idea, Barry. And it turned out it made us a fortune. So once you're in the trenches, that's where you discover things that other people could never discover, right? So when you've watched our videos, you probably noticed that we don't regurgitate what you may have heard elsewhere. Our information comes from a different source. It comes from the real world. And also, as Brian pointed out, we have a huge advantage. We get to see a bunch of deals at the same time. Boing, 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 boing. I've got news for you. If you're doing more than one deal a month that actually makes some real money, you're among the top 1% of all real estate investors. I'm talking about creative flippers, wholesalers in America. You're in the top 1% if you're doing a deal a month. Just think about that. That's 12 start to finish deals in 1 year. That's not a lot of reps for some of you that are exercise people. The repetition that we get is like on steroids. And we're looking at thousands of deals in a year that go from start to finish. We see so much that no one else could see because of the position we're in. So I love your question, but I want to go to something else you said, Zeus. You said you make it look so easy, but I doubt it's that easy. I apologize if you think we make it look easy. It's not. It's not easy. Now, I get excited when I share these things, and I think all three of us on this team do a great job of making complex things easy to understand. But no, this business is not easy. I mean, there is a whole lot of challenges, some of which you would never expect, and that's why you need a team behind you. It looks simple on the outside. I've told this to people for years. They say, well, Phil, how hard can your business really be? Okay, you buy a property for $200,000. It's worth $275,000. You do a little bit of fix up, you resell. It's not complicated. And I can say, all right, number one, finding that deal for $200 that'll sell for $275 with some cosmetic renovation, extremely difficult. The fact that there is no gotchas in the $200,000 property. You don't have a problem with the sewer. You don't have a problem with easements. You don't have a problem with zoning. You have a problem with this. That's another miracle. Being able to sell it for $275 and it not really just sell for $240 because you reviewed the comps, and on and on and on. So no, it's not easy, but it's real. It can be done. And so it's satisfying in that regard. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It takes years to really build up your pipeline to the point where you're making great money at this consistently. And every one of our graduates, by the way, you see a lot recently on our YouTube channel, interviews with our graduates. You'll hear it from them as well. All of them say the same thing. It took a long time for them to learn. Even though we spoon-fed the information, it took them time to learn, took them time to build everything that needed to be built, but it was worth it because in the end, a year or 2, 3 years later, the business is still rock solid. Something else I get passionate about. There's a lot of businesses that 3 years from now aren't going to be doing that well, right? You get in and then it kind of fizzles out. I think of that business like Groupon, right? Groupon was firing on all cylinders. They should have sold it while they were on top. They didn't. And those things come and they go. What we're doing doesn't come and go because everybody needs a place to live. Everybody's going to own real estate that has all kinds of maintenance issues. And our business will continue to be profitable. So you start today. It's not easy, but you do it right. You get with the right people. And 2-3 years down the road, you're so thankful you did. You're like, hallelujah, this was such a good decision. All right, so I want to get into the weeds a little bit here, Devin. I like this question, especially as a real estate agent. Put you on the spot here because you also get paid a commission when you list. I'm considering using a flat fee real estate agent to sell my house. Is that a bad idea?
So I would answer that in a few different ways because I'm an agent myself. So what I would say is your experience level really matters here. Okay. Mm-hmm. How well you understand the documentation, the addendums, all of the paperwork in your state. If you have a really strong understanding of that, then I don't think it's a bad idea or a good attorney to bounce it off of. If you don't have a good threshold of understanding real estate, you can really open yourself up to a lot of exposure and hurt the final sales price of your home. Like, for example, you may list a property on a flat fee. You may list it, way above market value. Now you kill the listing, you ruin the momentum, and ultimately it sells for less, right? I mean, we teach our students this, but you got to understand they have all of us helping them and guiding them, which is a big difference. So it can go both ways, Eric. I would say it's a good idea if you know what you're doing because you save a bunch of money. It can be a really bad idea if you don't know what you're doing.
I know I've personally instructed friends and family that are long distance to just hire a full service listing. Although I tell them to negotiate the commission, right? To get that down, but because the flat fee is what we teach, and the best way to flipping a house the Freedom Mentor way. It's what we teach our apprentices. It is the best way to do it, but it's only the best way if you know exactly what you're doing. Thank you, Devin. Yep. Brian, there's always an exception to the rule. Daniel here, he might be our exception to the rule. He asks, would you start out in your own backyard, even in a market like New York City?
Yeah, there's always exceptions. I definitely think you need to learn the suburbs and learn where there's affordable housing that really, no matter what market you're in, you're looking for what the greatest number of people are able to afford, and where there's a lot of volume. So absolutely, I think you have to adjust and look for that sweet spot. We talk about that in a few of our videos as well, kind of getting down to that median income, median price. And of course, that's going to vary. So you don't want to be right in the heart of all the competition. You don't want to be in such a rural area that there's no buyers. You got to find that sweet spot, and that's what we help our apprentices find.
Yeah, this is tough, Daniel. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to either go to Long Island, you go over to New Jersey across the river. Yeah, you're going to have a tough time if you're in Manhattan. I mean, well, even any of the boroughs, really. You've got to get to a spot where there's some single-family homes. Do we do deals on condos? Yes, but condos are a minefield. Florida right now, because of the law that changed, a lot of condo values have plummeted, and that's also because there's deferred maintenance. There's the catastrophe, that tragic collapse of the condo building in Miami Beach, and so there's a lot of fear surrounding that. And meanwhile, because of that fear, people might not be paying their HOA dues, and so now the HOA is underwater. So you got to be careful with that. And I know that in my visits to New York City, especially Manhattan, there's very few single family homes. So I'm glad you asked that question, and that just shows that there are exceptions to every rule. So with a market that's really urban, you've heard where we say go more to suburbia, and for those in suburbia, sometimes they go a little bit more rural. You will find that there can be some real treasures when you look just outside just a little bit. So that's a real pro tip right there, and many of our people have been very successful by doing that. It's also because of the fact that the majority of buyers, they're struggling with the interest rates as well too. So you've got to make sure you're in a more affordable price point. That's just where the volume is. That's where our deals are made. And look, if we're being very transparent, I'd also say this: someone who owns a $2.5 million property, they're not working with a We Buy Houses sign type buyer. They're calling real estate agents and they're selling that through the traditional manner. It's those that are in a pickle that don't have the financial capability or the interest. And I think that's an important component of this. We sometimes, when people look at the business we do, they say, well, are you just taking advantage of people that are, in a bad situation? Well, no, it's people that say, this is what I want. If you can give me this, I'm in. Because not everybody is as interested in money as you might think. And so what ends up happening is we find win-win deals. And I just don't see a lot of win-win deals in $2 million+ projects. I mean, there's always outliers, but it's tough to build a business around that.
Yeah, there's Phil, there's a really good question from Hunter. A few up.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll hand that one to you, Devin. Is a local mentor best? Is someone from the local RIA club better or worse than working with Freedom Mentor? Obviously, I'll give you a real quick summary. We're going to say Freedom Mentor, but Devin's going to explain why.
Yeah, so I would explain, when you think about a RIA club, it's a lot of people that want to do real estate that doesn't necessarily mean they're skilled. Okay. So they can't actually teach you what needs to happen. Okay. Also, you got to remember in a RIA club, if I'm doing a deal, why would I share it with you? I'm doing the deal, right? So there's not that much back and forth in a RIA club. I mean, I know a lot of people in the local RIA club. I do way more deals than them. One, because they don't know what they're doing. And two, no one's teaching them to actually know how to find these deals. Everybody just talks about who's more experienced. But the truth of the matter is you need to be able to learn our techniques of finding deals, because that's where really the rubber meets the road. Because you can have all the techniques, but if you don't have a way to generate seller leads, nothing else really matters. Okay. And then I would also argue that having a national presence, as far as like, we do deals in all the different states. We see more deals than anybody will ever see in a local RIA club. So we have a very different perspective and knowledge on deals and states and what might be able to be brought into your deal, because we know something in South Carolina, right, that's coming to Texas, or vice versa. So we just see more deals at a much higher rate. Plus, we have invested interest with our structure to help our students close.
Yeah, I made a big mistake early in my career. Once I really started figuring out what was going on, I thought I was going to be real clever and duplicate myself before Freedom Mentor was established. And I taught someone locally what I was doing. And at that time, it was the main thing was short sales. I taught them exactly what I was doing. I created the biggest competitor in my marketplace. And in hindsight, I was like, that is so stupid. I could have taught everyone else around the country but my own market. I chose to teach somebody in my own market, and now I am my biggest competitor. Local RIA clubs, that's a great place to connect with title companies, hard money lenders, a great place to connect. But it's not a great place to learn specifically what we're doing, because if they really taught you exactly how it really worked, they would create an instant competitor. So they have to be more clever than that. They have to somewhat teach you, but not really, because they've got to make sure you're somewhat off the scent a little bit. Because if not, then you're going to take the deals from them. So if you're smart enough to know how to be in the room, be a fly on the wall, listen carefully, but not give away any secrets. If you're able to be a great networker, but magically not provide any real insight to others, if you're able to do all that, then a RIA club meeting could have some merit. But as Devin pointed out, the most successful real estate investors across America, none of them are spending time at RIA club meetings. It is not fruitful for them because, again, as I said, you give away secrets. Now you created a local competitor. So, I just saw a comment about Bitcoin. Just so you know, we're real estate people here, and I don't even begin to talk about the different investment strategies because real estate has done so well for us. So sorry, we won't be able to help you there. All right, y'all. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour. I want to tell you that have been here with us this hour, a big thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your life to be with us. I hope we added some value for you. I hope we provided you some insight on how you can get out there and be successful with what we're doing, and that is creative real estate investing, flipping houses. It's the best small business in America. This will be an incredible income stream for you if you get with the right people, if you stick to it, and you do it right with integrity, with honesty, and with consistency. It's a great way to earn a living, and more so than that. So I hope I've encouraged you on that, if nothing else. On behalf of Devin and Brian, big thank you to you all. And as we've been talking about here, Freedom Mentor, our company, we mentor, we train, we turn people into first-class money-making machines, real estate professionals that have a career in this industry. And you can meet those people. You can go to our YouTube channel. You can watch the interviews of the people we've worked with over all these years. You can hear it from their own mouths, what it's been like to be working with us. You can see our relationships we've built with them over the years. And again, you can see the link here in the comments section from Stephanie there, freedommentor.com/apprentice. If you're serious about making a go at this thing called creative real estate investing and flipping houses, if you're really serious about that, that's where you want to be. You want to be in our program. You can tell how much we love coaching and mentoring. It's our life. It's our passion. And we love transforming people from absolute beginners into seasoned professionals. Well, Devin, thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
And Brian, thank you as well. You all, I don't know when our next one's going to be, but if you all love it, feel free to send some more comments our way and encourage us on that so we can mesh our schedules again and do this again. All right. Well, on behalf of everyone at Freedom Mentor, thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, guys.